Hi, how you doing? So in this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process that I use to import and export images correctly using Lightroom. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that my external hard drive is plugged into the computer, which you can see up here. And I'm now going to put in the memory card from the camera, so you can see that will pop up there. So there you go, there's my memory card. So once you've done that, you can then open up Lightroom, and everything can be done within the Lightroom module. So the first thing we're going to do is select import. Now it's going to ask us where we want to import from. So it's automatically brought up the memory card there. So this would automatically pick up your plugin in your camera as well. So you just need to select the folder where your images are. So I'm going to select this folder. Now I'm going to uncheck all because I don't want to import every single raw file that's in here because there's a lot. So I'm just going to select the ones I want to bring in just for this tutorial. The next thing is the selection that's at the top here. So we have four options. So we have copy as DNG, we have copy, and we have move and add. And at the minute I can't move or add anything because this is a new import. So what I want to do is copy as DNG. What that does is that will copy these files and it will convert them to a DNG file. A DNG file is a digital negative file. So the benefit from that is that the DNG file is smaller than the raw file. So you'll have some compression, but you won't lose quality. So it's well worth doing that because it's going to save you space. So once you've done that, come over to the right hand side, and now we need to select where we want to import these images from our memory card, where we want to import them to, which is our external hard drive. So what we want to do is come down to the bottom here where it says destination. You can see here at the minute it's got my Macintosh HD, so my hard drive on my computer, wanting to save it into pictures. I don't want that. I want to save it into my external hard drive. So what I can do is select my external hard drive, and I can then create a folder within here. So to do that, all I need to do is click on the plus at the top and select create new folder, and you can see my external hard drive is already selected, and I can just select new folder, and I can call this products, and I'll call it test just for the tutorial, and then select create, and then select choose, and you'll see the folder has just been created here. So that is where we're going to be importing the images into. And you'll also notice that it also does it by year, and then by year, month, day. Okay, so that's just a really great way just to keep things clean, and you can find images through dates later on. At the very top, you'll see that under file handling it says build previews. So if you click on the drop down menu there, you'll see it says minimal, embedded and sidecast, standard, and then 1-to-1. So I recommend you select standard, and you can also click on the build smart previews and then don't import selected duplicates. You can also make a second copy if you want to. If you're using more than one hard drive, you can make a second copy and click on the hard drive that you're using, and you can also add this to a collection if you want to. Now what a smart preview does is it builds a preview of the file. So if you were to take the external hard drive out, you would still be able to view the image and edit it. So you can change the file name, so you can rename the file. I avoid that because if I want to find these files again, I want to keep the same numbers. Okay, so but sometimes you might want to rename them. That's fine. You can just select that and then type in a custom text name. You can also apply during import develop settings. So if you've got presets, you can actually select a preset, and that particular preset will be used during import. Again, you can do that later, so I don't do that. The next stage is the metadata, and again this can be added at the next stage, but it's quite useful to do this when you're at this stage. So you can see here I've got my info, which is basically a saved preset. If I select new, this will give you the new metadata. So what you want to do is fill this out. Okay, you've got different things that you can put in there, and once you've filled it all out, just select create, and then it will ask you to name it, and you can name it to whatever you want, and mine is my info. And then I can type in some keywords, so I can type in products, and I could also say test. Okay, so that's going to give me 2 keywords there that I can use. So once we've done that, we can then just click on import, and now what's happening is the images are being imported from the memory card to the external hard drive. There we go. And you can see what's happening up here is that it's now converting these to DNG files, and there we go. So 5 photos were converted to DNG, so we can say OK to that. And now it's also building some standard previews, and that just gives you some smart previews. Okay. So if we click on the green button here, just to minimize, I'm going to click on the external hard drive, and if I come down to here, I can see there's the folder that we created. There's the year, and then year, month, day, and there's the files there that have been created, and you can see they are DNG formats. So within this stage in the library module, we can see that we've got options here where we can add keywords. Now these keywords are really helpful, and you can do lots and lots of things with this. You can add these to presets. You can have lots and lots of different options here. So the first thing you can do is type them in like we did at the beginning. You've got keyword suggestions here. Now these will be used suggestions depending on your usage of the software. It will learn as you go along. And then you've got keyword set. So if you click on that, you see there's a list there. Okay, so you've got outdoor photography, portrait, wedding, and you can select restore default presets. If I click on that, that's going to restore everything back, and you can see there we've got all the options down here. So babies, families. So if I click on that, I've just added it. It says families up there. Okay, and if I come down and say, okay, well, there's some kids in the shot, I can click that, and you'll see it just adds it. And also what you'll also see is that there is adding a comma, which is really important. So if we come back up to here, if I search product tests, this will come up. If I just use test, it won't come up because I didn't add the comma. So if I add the comma, there we go, that will work now. And you can add in your own. Okay, so and you can also come down to the bottom here, click on the plus. There we go, and you can add in a keyword name. So it could be products. Okay, create photo. Okay, so it already exists. Okay, so it already exists, but that's how you do it. So it's really helpful that you do this. Okay, the reason being is because later on, when you want to search for these, they become really helpful. Okay, so it helps you catalog your work a lot better. So once you've done that, you are good to go. So the next stage then for this would be just bringing it into the develop module, and for instance just making an adjustment. Now this tutorial is not about the development, it's about the actual import and export. So once you've made an adjustment to a picture like I've just done there, I've just added one of my presets. I'm going to hold the shift key down, select all the images, and then select sync, and I'm just going to click synchronize. Now all the images have that same one preset to all 5 images, so I'm happy. I've done my adjustments. I now want to export. So there's 2 ways we can do this. We can right click and then select export, which is down here, or we can go to file and export. So they're the exact same thing. Okay, now we're in the export module. What we want to do is just decide first of all where we want to save these files. So what I want to do is choose where these are going to go. So if I click on that, at the minute it's actually going to save it in the 2022. It's going to save it in there for me. Okay, so I might not want that. I might want to choose somewhere else. So I could create a new folder within this section here. I could come back a step. I could create a folder in here, or of course I could create a new folder in here. What I do like to do is, me personally, is actually create a new folder within this section here. So I would create a new folder and I would call this products retouched, for example. Okay, and what that means is that all of my DNG files are going to be at the top, and then the final images are going to be at the bottom in this folder, and they will be here. So I'm going to select choose. You can rename the files, so if you want to, you can rename them to a custom name. I don't do that because I want to find these files at a later date. I can look back at the raw files and I can just type in that number and they will come up, so I leave that. We'll leave video because we're not doing video. So now we come to the file settings. The first is JPEG. A JPEG is a compressed file format that you would typically use when image quality is less important than the file size. So for things like email attachments or to show images on a web page. Next up is a PSD file, and a PSD file is a file that gives you the ability to store multiple layers. So if you're doing lots of adjustments within Photoshop and you have lots of layers, then PSD is going to be the file that you want to select. However, the PSD file is limited to 2 GB. The problem with the PSD file is that it can only be used in Adobe programs as well. So if you're not using Photoshop or Lightroom, then no other program will be able to read this file. So that's why it's quite limited in what it can do. So the next is TIFF. The TIFF file is a high quality file format that you would choose if the image quality is more important than the actual file size itself. Okay, so TIFFs are roughly 10 times larger than a JPEG, so it gives you an idea of the file size that you would get, and you would typically use this file for submitting files to clients, so they've got really nice big files. Export them in other applications like Photoshop, or whenever you require the best image quality, so if you're gallery printing, that kind of thing. Now if you select a TIFF file, then what you want to do is select, and it's already done it for me, is the Adobe RGB. So the Adobe RGB is a bigger color space than sRGB. So sRGB will be used for JPEG, okay, because it's a smaller range. And then when we come to a TIFF, we want to be using Adobe RGB. The newer version is the Pro Photo RGB, which is actually even better. So my recommendation would be that. By default, it will be the Adobe RGB, but this is the new standard. So Pro Photo RGB will just give you more colors than the Adobe. Okay. And what you want to be using is 16 bits. 8 bits, it will compress the file, so leave it on 16-bit and have no compression. Next up, you've got a PNG file. So a PNG file will enable you to support transparency. So for instance, if you've got something that you've cut out and you don't want the background to be there, then you would select it as a PNG file, and that will then give you a transparent image. And then we have the DNG, which is the digital negative file, which is what we use to import the images in the first place. Moving on, we then have the image size. So if you are using these images just for web use, then the resolution does not matter, because resolution is just for print. Okay. If you want to, you can resize these, and there's a few ways in which you can adjust these. So if you are printing this, then you want to select the width and the height. So for example, if you wanted to print this image to A4, then what we would do is select centimeters, and I would select a width of 21 and a height of 29.7, and then a resolution at 300. So 300 dpi is standard resolution, and it's the human eye threshold. Okay, so with that, it basically means that that's going to give us photorealistic pictures. So if you want to resize the image for social media, then all you need to do is come down to the long edge and then change from centimeter to pixels, and you can then use a long edge of 2048 pixels. So that is the largest you can post on Facebook. So that's what you would do. Now, resizing the image, it doesn't crop your images, okay? It doesn't crop your image to these dimensions. What it does, it defines a box with these dimensions that you put in, okay? And then that image fits into that box, and that also means that if the width and height are not the same as the box, then what will happen is that the portrait or landscape format are exported at different sizes. So that's why they will come out at different sizes. Okay, then what we can move on to is the output sharpness. Some people don't use this because they sharpen all their images within Lightroom. You can put output sharpen for screen, matte paper, or gloss paper. That is by choice. It's up to you. I don't actually use this, but some people do. So that is debatable whether or not you want to use that. It's up to you. And then we've got the metadata. So we've got all metadata, which is what we added on the import. Okay. And then if we want to add a watermark, this is where we would do it. And post-processing, so after export, we can do nothing, show in Finder or show in Adobe Photoshop, or we can show where the folder is. So just do nothing. That's all you need to do. So once you've gone through this a few times, what will happen is that you'll end up doing the same settings. So the good idea is to create a preset. So if you look on the left hand side, these are my presets here. So for this particular one, this is the JPEG. So all I need to do is select add, and I can then call this whatever I want. So I'm just going to call this test and click create. There it is. So next time that I'm exporting a file, all I need to do is come up to here, select it, and then I can click export. Obviously I'd need to select where that particular file is going, but that is all I would need to do, because then everything else here is all taken care of. So if I come to the TIFF, there we go, you can see there's my TIFF. All right, so that's a really, really good way of doing things. So then all we need to do, let me just change that to JPEG, is select export. And what's going to happen is that Lightroom is now going to export them files into that specific folder. So if we come up to the external hard drive, and let's find the folder that we created on the first import, which was products test. Click along, there are our images. And then these are our retouch ones. So these are now our exported ones, and you can see there they are. What you must remember is that when you import images, you are not importing them into Lightroom. Lightroom does not hold your images. Your images are here. They're in the external hard drive. They're not in Lightroom. They're never in Lightroom, and that's the biggest mistake that people make, because what they do is this. They might come down to the image and say, okay, I want to delete that. So they'll delete. And then it will say, okay, you're gonna delete this. What do you want to do? If I remove from Lightroom, all it's going to do is take it out of Lightroom. Okay, and then that'll be gone. But it will still be in this hard drive. If I select delete from disk, then that is going to delete the image from here. So you will lose your image. You will not be able to get it back. It will be deleted forever. Okay, so that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that they assume that it's in Lightroom, and it's not. Your images are always up here. They're always in the external hard drive. Also, what can happen is if you move the files, then Lightroom is not going to be able to find them. So for instance, if I move this file, come to the library module, you will now see at the bottom here these little exclamation marks. Can you see them? Okay, it doesn't know where these particular files are. So if I click on it, it says here, look, could not be used because the original file could not be found. Would you like to locate it? So if you click locate, you then need to go and find where them files are. So this particular one is this one here. So then I'll click select, and then it will try and find it, which it has because it's up here. There you go. See, it's now them exclamation marks have now gone. The point being is that once you've uploaded your files into your external hard drive, do not move them, because if you move them, Lightroom says, I don't know where your files are, and that can cause all sorts of problems. And that's when you end up with missing images. It's because you have basically broken the link from your hard drive to Lightroom. Maybe wondering why we added keywords, you know, what's the use of that? Well, when you have lots and lots of files and images and catalogues within Lightroom, using these keywords is a great way to find your images. So if you go to the top and just go to the library module, which is here, go to text, what we can then do is just type in our text. So if I type in still life and press enter, then the image with that still life tag will come up, and you can see the tag here. It's this little black tag. So that really helps when you are trying to find a particular image. You can use your tags there. So if I type in another one, so products, there you go. So it's just that one that I tagged. So I hope that's helped. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, then leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.